Hey everyone, and welcome back to Million Dollar Media. We are now going to be doing the Alien Collection, as I like to call it, where we'll be covering the Alien movies in this series of reviews. For now, we're just going to be starting with the first three Alien movies, leading up to the new movie that's supposed to be coming out in a couple of weeks, Alien Romulus. And today, we're just going to be talking about the movie that kicked it all off, Alien.
Yep, it's one of the best films ever made. Oh, hi, I'm here. I'm Emily. You may know me from other episodes of this show. It's me. Alien's one of the best movies ever made.
Okay, interesting. I will say that I think this is like a really well-made movie that still holds up.
Yep.
I never grew up on this film, so admittedly a lot of like the nostalgic factor doesn't really come from this movie. It comes from another movie we may be talking about in the near future.
Sure.
But I will say that out of all the movies, I think this is the best made Alien film.
Yeah.
Like, this thing is just like a artistic masterpiece, if you will.
It is, yes. I mean, it is Ridley Scott at, I would say, the pinnacle of his craft.
Yeah.
I think that this was the best, most detailed, most masterful thing that he ever created.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it's brilliant. And I mean, we also have to, throw some credit to H.R. Giger, who also...
Oh, of course.
Contributed to this movie being an absolute masterpiece.
Sorry, the fact that you just accidentally called it a mover just makes you sound like you're from the 30s. Oh, you got the talkies, now you got the movers.
Yeah. You sound like a Midwestern person from the 30s. Jesus.
Exactly.
Oh, the movers are coming out.
Oh, shit, bud.
Yeah. So Alien is just it's a fucking masterpiece. And it's crazy that this movie came out in 1979.
It does not look like that. I mean, there's some things where I'm like, that's very 70s. That's very 70s.
Well, but like it doesn't look like that in the sense that the visuals hold up spectacularly.
Yeah. It's purely just like hairstyles for me. Everybody looks like they're from that particular time period. However, as to what you're saying about like the special effects, they still hold up pretty damn well.
Yeah, but I love it. For me, part of what sells it is the technology. The fact that they're using these giant, chunky-ass computers, and they're still using computers that don't have interfaces more complicated than green text on a black screen. It kind of gives me the same very good nostalgic sci-fi vibes that like Fallout gives me. Where it's
I see what you mean.
I really love the fact that the technology is what people conceived computers would be like 30 years in the future in the 1970s. Yeah. They could do more and they haven't been zhuzhed up like visually or anything. Mm-hmm. It's such a breath of fresh air because I'm so used to a lot of sci-fi going in the direction of being a little bit too complicated with its technology, which tends to lose me.
Yeah, like what happens later in this franchise, in my opinion.
Yes. Yeah, look, it makes no sense. Prometheus, great movie, makes a lot of really weird idiosyncrasies in the overall franchise continuity. Good movie, though.
Okay.
That's my take.
That's fair. Okay, that's fair.
However, that is irrelevant. Let's talk about those fucking monster designs.
First of all, just go and look up H.R. Giger's work. Is it Giger or Geiger? I've heard it pronounced different ways.
You could say it either way. I don't think it really matters.
Okay.
I think Geiger is the general pronunciation that people use.
His work overall is just really detailed and very perverse, but very intricate and interesting about like how does he fit in this iconography or this imagery into this weird horrific thing. And pretty much everything around the alien from every form it's in has some weird pseudo-sexual design to it.
Yes. Well, I mean, and the psychosexual nature of everything, it just drips into everything that the movie does. Yeah. And I mean, that is important, right? Like there is very obvious implications to the setup that were being given here. I mean, from the fact that the facehuggers like forcibly impregnate people to the fact that, the primary setting of the story is that it's one woman isolated with a sort of unseen threat. It all drips into this very sort of element of sexual horror. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, for 1979, it is insane that they were able to portray that in the way that they did and not even face like backlash for it.
Well, it's also the thing of like, if it were like a more humanoid creature doing this, I think that it would be a little bit more on the nose, if you will. Like, it would just be more like, okay, I see what you're going for here. But, like, even though the alien, the xenomorph itself, has very suggestive imagery going on with it, you can still, like, sell that toy to a kid. Like, but there's nothing, like, to it that's too out of, like, inappropriate. It's all just suggestive. And, like, again, like, I never personally saw what you're talking about in that way. I always thought it was just like a really cool monster movie with some really suggestive imagery. Like, one thing I like about this film is, like, you don't know who the main character is until, like, the last third.
Yeah. And again, that is by design. I love the fact that the movie actually uses its ensemble cast in a way that makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. It uses them for actual ends rather than just, you know, the sort of trope that a lot of slashers would go on to fall into in the 80s was that the ensemble cast was mostly there to die.
Cannon fodder. Yeah,
exactly. And credit where it's due. There are some movies that have, like, fun with that. Like, I think the Friday the 13th reboot movie is hilarious because none of these people matter. Yeah. Like, even the final girl is barely a character because that movie is horrible, but it's horrible in the best way possible.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, I want to see people die in hilariously gruesome ways. And I think that there could be fun to that, but it's not what Alien is trying to do.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things adjectives that I would use to describe Alien, but fun is not one of them.
No, this is not a fun movie. Honestly, like, one of the things that, like, doesn't help, like, a modern day moviegoer is the fact that this movie has a very slow pace.
It does.
It's dripping with atmosphere, which I do like, and it does get you in this mood of, like, everything is so claustrophobic, and you have to, like, bend your head everywhere. And you gotta do A, B, and C just to make sure you don't die from getting sucked out into space.
Yeah. The design of the Nostromo is just brilliant.
It's incredible. And the best part of it all, it's this giant spaceship, but it's treated as, like, a big ass truck.
Yeah.
Because they're just they're like coal miners or something like that. They were sent out to get this material and bring it back, and along the way they got this distress beacon, or they got told by the company basically saying, hey, protocol says you got to go down there and check it out.
Right.
And, like, that's also the kind of fun part about this is, like, they never wanted any of this.
Yeah. It's interesting because I do think that there are ways to mess up making a movie whose primary drive is, like, the atmosphere of it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Like, I saw Longlegs recently. That was a movie with a great atmosphere.
Uh-huh.
And they botched it at the end. So the issue with Longlegs, I'm only going to shit on it briefly, and only for the reason that I want to compare Alien to it positively. The issue that Longlegs runs into is that they establish a really strong atmosphere through good filmmaking. Like, the whole movie is very much meant to impress the sort of vibe of, like, a movie that was made in the late 70s, early 80s.
Uh-huh.
So everything looks very crisp and, like, present. There's not a lot of green screen used. The audio has this, like, crackle to it that really it draws you in, and, like, even the aspect ratio, right? Like, it all is meant to emulate older movies, and it's fascinating and really tense. And the movie comes to a conclusion that basically undoes all of its atmosphere because it explains everything in a really unsatisfying way.
Mm.
And part of what I like about Alien, in terms of the way that its narrative is set up, is that it doesn't try to over-explain anything. You know, we don't get a big reveal at the end about what the alien actually was, or, like, a million details about it.
No,
the monster is actually kept relatively mysterious throughout the entire movie, such that when that ending happens, I don't know, are we on spoiler watch for a movie that's nearly 50 years old?
No, fuck it. You kind of know what happens just by the fact that there's, like, we're going to be covering 3 of the 6 films.
Right. But when Ripley vents the alien out of the airlock at the end, it manages to do kind of what I would consider a perfect horror ending, in that it solves the small issue of there is the alien that tried to kill Ripley and then it's gone. But we haven't solved the larger issue of what was it? Why was it there? What is the larger implication of its existence?
Yeah.
Which later films in the franchise would go on to tackle. But leaving you on that note where some things are satisfyingly ended, but not everything is explained, is fucking perfection.
I agree. Like, I don't want to say this film is simplistic because there's way too much, like, details going on with it. Even in the fact that, like, yes, they don't explain what the alien is, but there's enough clues there you can make your own story with, like, the jockey pilot having its own chest open, them being scientists having to explain what's going on in between each process of this thing, like maturing from like facehugger form to chest burster to its final form, or I don't know how alien biology works or xenomorph biology. Is this one just a drone, or is this one eventually going to become a queen? I don't know how one becomes a queen. Drone. Okay, but still, at the point, but they don't explain that stuff. They're just like, okay, we're at this point, and we don't know how much bigger it's gonna get, so we gotta stop it now. And even down to the fact, like, you can't even really kill this thing in space, because it's like, if you shoot it or stab it or anything, one, you can get acid on you, and two, if it dies and like just bleeds through the floor, it's gonna go down each floor and eventually
and there's that brilliant segment.
Mm-hmm.
Or the blood, like a drop of blood spills and it goes through all of the fucking floors of the ship.
It goes through like 4 floors.
Yeah. And they're like chasing it down. That section is awesome.
It sets up the meta threat of like, well, yeah, you can't do anything against this. This thing is the perfect organism. Every design of this thing is meant to kill you.
Yeah.
Like there's no running away from it.
And I think even beyond that, and just what a credit it is to the filmmakers who were involved in this and managed to balance all these elements perfectly, despite having a perfectly designed monster, they don't let the alien be the whole story of the film, because that would have been so easy to do, right? Like it would have been so simple to have the crew tries to escape the alien be the entire plot, but there's actual elements that are also making social commentary, like the fact that the crew was, once again, we can spoil a nearly 50-year-old movie, the crew was supposed to die. Like it was all part of the design by the people who sent them there to recover the alien.
Yeah, and what great world building just by doing that little thing.
Yeah.
Like,
and
it's
fucking Ash and all the conversations they have with his disembodied head.
Yeah, it's great effect. I mean, there's some moments where you can, like when they kick it at the end.
Yeah.
It's a little funny. I mean, I knew going in that he's an android. However, I can't even imagine someone in like 78? 79, like watching that film and then seeing like, oh yeah, this guy's head just like gets cut off and is still like there, and like you see it, and why is he spewing milk?
Yeah. The fact that this movie had a brilliant slasher premise that they didn't have to do anything more with, and then did more with it anyways, is a testament to how fucking good everything about this movie is. If you can't tell, I am deeply passionate about the original Alien film.
No, it's a film worth getting passionate about. It's like, that's the reason why it's still to this day like a popular enough franchise, because like you can do so much with it. Because this film like what I like about this film, it sets up this really awesome premise, and it does it really well. But it's a premise that you can then put in different situations.
Yes.
Which can be a problem, because then those situations can be very hit or miss, if you will.
Yeah, like, the first 2 movies of this franchise being good, and then the third one...
We'll get to it.
We'll get to it. But, like, I will go ahead... Small sort of teaser for our next video. I have different opinions about Aliens than I have to Alien.
Okay.
But
I do too.
I think the fact that they were able to transpose this premise onto an entirely different genre of film is unbelievably incredible.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that part of that is it is due in part to the fact that they took such care in developing both the monster and the world around it in this film, that they were able to give solid legs to different kinds of movies that would be using the same IP.
Exactly. And I love this film. I love the characters too. Now, to be fair, I'm not a mega fan, so I can't remember every character's name, but I do like Parker. I like Dallas. And
yeah.
Henry.
Shout out to Parker being canonically transgender for reasons I don't understand. As long as she's the one that I'm thinking of. What are the characters? Hold on.
I'm thinking of the black guy.
No, yeah, I'm getting them mixed up. Hang on. Her name is Lambert.
Yeah, okay, she's cool.
Yes. She's also canonically trans.
Really?
Yes. The extended cut of the film, they go over these little bio sections on the computer about each of the crewmates. And Lambert says originally born male, but then transitioned to female.
Really?
Yep.
Huh. They did not I watched the original cut.
Okay. Oh my god, so you haven't seen the Nest scene?
No, I wanted to keep it just traditional for my review, or at least my viewing of it, because I didn't want to like try to confuse myself too much. I've heard of the nest scene. I've heard of the original way the alien is introduced via the chains in the wall, like in the ceiling, and it's just there. Like you see the full thing. Like I've seen that scene, and I think I kind of wish I saw that in my original version, but I wanted to keep it simple for my first time watching it.
That is fair. I do suggest watching the director's cut at some point, and to all you listeners out there who are part of the Sigma Skibbity generation, you should watch this movie if you feel comfortable watching a horror movie, and you should watch the director's cut, because in my opinion, it is very much the film as it was meant to be presented. Okay. The nest scene was literally only taken out of the movie because studio executives thought that it would be too intense for audiences of the time.
Interesting.
Admittedly, is a very intense scene.
Didn't they like implement elements of the nest scene in other movies?
Yes.
If I'm correct, because I feel like I know what you're talking about. Like, I remember hearing somewhere that there's a theory that like if a drone doesn't have access to a queen, it will make its own egg.
Yes.
Like I've heard that theory.
And the way that it does that is it takes the people who get killed by it, and like they don't immediately die; they actually all get dragged back to the nest.
Yeah, that's an element introduced into Aliens.
Yes, but I mean, it's just the way that the film is handled, or that the scene is handled in the director's cut, is just beyond brilliant.
Really? Okay, yeah.
Yes.
In the cut that I watched, like there's so many well done scenes. Just the whole scene where Dallas has to go into the vents.
Yeah.
That's terrifying. I love that the technology in this is like, yes, it's very futuristic, but you even brought up it's dog shit, even to the point that their tracker is only good within like not even 5 feet.
Yes, though I will say, shout out to the video game Alien Isolation for making that a fucking terrifying gameplay mechanic.
Yes.
Of having the scanner that only works within 5 meters, which means that if it starts going off, something is within 5 meters of you.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, dude, it's just like the way that it's like literally like a Geiger counter, where it's like the more you get closer to something, it just goes fucking nuts and it just starts beeping really fast. It's just like this giant thing that like is really awkward to carry with like a flamethrower as well.
Yeah.
It's like I gotta carry this and this just to keep myself safe, barely.
Yeah. It's awesome. It really adds to the sense of like grit and threat, which is it's something that I feel like survival situation movies, whether they be horror or not, and like kind of media in general, beyond movies. I really like seeing movies where people are in survival situations and have to turn to scrappy or otherwise like, we have to see them do things just to barely keep themselves alive.
Yeah.
I think that really adds to the tension. I like near miss situations. It's very cool.
They're not like soldiers or anything like that. They don't have guns just lying about, so they just got to resort to like, I don't know why they would have flamethrowers for that matter, but like they got flamethrowers and they got these cattle prods.
Yep.
We just gotta work with that.
And it's fucking awesome. God,
it is.
It's Alien is such a it should be it is the standard that I hold horror movies to.
And that's a good standard.
When we talk like 10 out of 10, I don't hand out like perfect ratings, this and that, very often. Mm-hmm. Alien is one of the few movies that I have been like, I genuinely find very, very little flaw with this. Like, it's not perfect, but it does everything that it wants to do so spectacularly that it has become the standard by which I hold other horror movies to.
I agree. It's just one of those like lightning in a bottle films that they've really tried. And to be fair, in my opinion, they did manage to catch one more time. But ever since then, they've just been trying to ride that like success and trying to get that magic back. And who knows? Maybe this new one can do that. I don't know.
I mean, I will say the closest they've come to making a good movie since Aliens is Prometheus, which is not saying a lot.
It's not saying a lot. Yeah, well, whenever we get to that.
Whenever we get to that, we'll talk about Prometheus at some point, because I am a staunch Prometheus is a pretty decent movie if you don't think too hard about what it means for the overall Alien canon.
For me, it's like when I saw this film, I was like, why the fuck did they ever think it would be a good idea to make prequels about this?
Yeah.
Like, I think sequels are a good idea for this because you can do a lot more with it. But like the idea of doing like a prequel and explaining how this thing is all made, and it's just not interesting to me because I'm like, that's not scary. Just explaining like, oh, okay, like this is where it's made from. This is who did it. This is why they did it.
Yeah, it's the same problem that Longlegs has.
Yeah.
I'm not going to stop bagging on this movie because it ruined my night.
Wow. Okay. Now I know you hate film Twitter.
There are a lot of ways that you can fuck up a slow burn, and Alien falls into none of the pitfalls that other movies that would try to emulate its image have ever stepped into. And there are some of those movies I like. I will give a quick moment to shout out the movie Event Horizon, which is a very fun time.
That's pretty much the two movies that we're saying combined.
Yeah. Event Horizon is actually good because the movie keeps baiting you out of, is this going to be actual biblical hell or not? And it totally is.
Oh,
but for a while, the movie definitely lets you believe that there could be other things at play.
Yeah, but, well, yeah, this film isn't at the end being like, oh, is it an alien or is it robotic drone? Because you could, like, admittedly at the time, you could also make the case that the fact that the thing is all like, it's this biomechanical look, you can kind of make that argument, but then you're like, oh no, it's biological.
Yeah.
I will say, I do really love this movie. I'm just not like, this is not like I'll admit that this is a better made film than anything going forward, but it's not my favorite.
That's completely fair. It is my favorite because this was the movie that made me into a person who loves horror movies. Like, I watched this when I was 13 years old. Mm-hmm. With my dad, who is terrified of horror movies. So he was on his iPad the whole time. But I just sat in the living room and I watched it, and I was transfixed. Right? Like, I had never seen anything do the things that this movie was doing. And it's a brilliant piece of art on every single level that it possibly could be.
Yeah, that basically covers Alien. Great film. I mean, we've already sung its praises pretty much throughout this review. The next video up on our Alien collection is Aliens. You know, best way to make a sequel title ever. Just make it plural.
Okay, I agree, except for when they did it for Twister, which made me indescribably angry. I didn't like it. I haven't seen the new movie. It's probably fine. But when I was watching the Super Bowl and the first commercial for Twisters came on, I just about lost my mind.
Just making it plural.
Yes, when they started revealing the title, I was like, oh my god, is it a reboot of Twisters? And then they added the S. I literally was like, this is the dumbest fucking thing. It's cool when Alien does it. It's a problem when Spielberg does it. Hope this helps.
All right, on that note, if you like this video, hit that like button. If you want to see more from the Alien franchise, that subscribe button. Share this video around so you can get the word out there that we're covering the Alien films. And yes, also subscribe to our Patreon for $5 a month. You can listen to all of the audios unedited, including this one, where you pretty much be getting to listen to all 3 movie reviews at once. So yeah, enjoy that.
Yeah, you could hear me. Fun fact: if you subscribe to the Patreon, you could hear me say a dirty phrase that I had asked Max to cut out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's true. I did do that.
Hear that, students?
All right.
See you guys. Bye.